What's up, gamers, and welcome to GameologyXM. This is your host, Xavi, and today we are getting into the second episode of this FIFA 16 FC Barcelona career mode. First game is going to be against LA Galaxy for the American Challenge Cup. As you know, in the last episode, I did mention we do have the option now to do a little bit of tournaments before you get into the main league for any of the career modes that you decide to play on. But we do have some tough opponents in our table. We have PSG, LA Galaxy, and San Lorenzo. But before we get into the first match, guys, I did want to show you some of the transfer options that I'm looking into to basically build up my squad, since I am having a couple of aging players in Iniesta, and I do have a couple of injured players that will not be able to play for me for at least half of the first season. But these are some of the options. I figured I would show you my short list of players that I am basically considering on bringing in. We do have the funds to buy some players, but again, we just basically want to verify what's good for us, what will not be good for us. And if you guys have any suggestions, of course, make sure you drop it off in the comment section below. Getting into the first list, or my short list as they would call it, we do have a couple of center backs that I am looking at, and a couple of strikers, midfielders, and some wingers. As you know, we did lose Pedro. He is no longer available for us, so hopefully this will be a good replacement. Even if we have to build him in a few years, we do have some players that are still good enough to make it that way. In the center back position, we do have Daniel Rugani, basically playing for Juventus right now. He's a 20-year-old. Seems to be a very, very good player at this moment. Hopefully he will build up and be good for us if we decide to bring him in. And then, of course, my second option is Nicholas Sulay. Really don't know how to pronounce his last name. Seems to be a really, really good player. He is young. He's only 19 years old, but he will develop hopefully into my next Pique, into my next Inform Macherano, which I am basically going to have a lot of updating to do in the defense. As you know, Barcelona always suffers in a counterattack. So not only does my next defender need to be strong and very good in the box, but he also needs to be pacey to catch up in case we do have any counterattacks going on towards us. In the third option, I do have Kurt Zuma. I usually pick up this player just because of his strength, his ability to play in the box, and he's a very aggressive header when you put him up front and you are doing your corners or free kicks. Moving on to the middle, guys, we do have Gerard Deulofeu. We just actually sold him to Everton for 12.5 million, as it would show in US dollars. I wish we wouldn't have. Pedro is gone now, so I might need to bring him in, but I'm not sure if I'm considering him or any other player. But he is in my short list. He has been good for us. Hopefully he'll develop into a 80, 81 by the time I do have the option to buy him next year. In the midfield, to replace the agent Iniesta, I do have Yori Tillman. I always buy this guy for my career mode. It doesn't matter what team I'm doing. If I could afford him, I will buy him. This guy is a superstar. I can't wait for him to break out in the real world. He's already doing good in Anderlecht, but I hope he blasts out and basically takes over the world. He is a very, very talented young man, and I hope he does very well for us. In the second option for the wing to replace Pedro, I do have Julian Brandt. Again, another player that I usually pick up in my career mode. Love the way he plays. Very aggressive, very pacey, and very good for us. Of course, my favorite player, even though a lot of my friends are not Manchester United fans, I do love Adnan. He's really, really good. He plays good for Belgium. He plays good for Manchester United when he gets the shot. I wish that I could bring him into my squad, and I'll try to make it a reality for this career mode if I do have some extra budget to bring him in. Even if I do bring a winger, I do want to bring Adnan in, even if I have to loan him out. He is a good player. He is good for the future, and I can't wait to have him because it's really hard to bench out Neymar right now, but he will be a good replacement for Sandro, who, again, like I mentioned in the last episode, I am not a big fan of. Going back to the midfield, we do have Ross Barkley. Always like this guy in the real world. Always like this guy in the FIFA career modes. He is very, very strong, very aggressive, and he could kick the crap out the ball. He is a very, very good player. Basically, one of the biggest options I have to bring in to replace Iniesta might be Ross Barkley. Even though he might be more of a center midfield or a holding midfield, I feel like he could play up front very well. He is a cam in FIFA 16. He has been the same thing for a few years now. But again, there is a very high possibility of me bringing him in to replace one of my aging players in FC Barcelona's midfield. The third option will be Maximilian Meyer. Meyer, really don't know how to pronounce it. But again, he is a good player. Would love to bring him in if I do have the extra budget to bring him in, even though I might bring Barkley to be the main one, if not Tillman. But it's looking like it's going to be Tillman, maybe Ross Barkley second, if not Maximilian Meyer. It just depends on their value, guys. Don't really want to overspend. Even though I have a big budget for the FC Barcelona squad, I really don't want to do it overkill, because when you have too many talented players, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of players that you cannot bench, which end up getting upset and want to leave. And of course, in the striker position, like I said, Suarez is the undisputed striker for us, but we always need a backup because Suarez might not be fit for the whole season. And of course, somebody who is young and pacey and aggressive as him would be good for our team to continue the same rhythm that we have in FC Barcelona. I have Paco Alcacer, who's been good for Valencia. He's been developing very great. I had him last season in FIFA 15. He was great for me to replace Suarez after he aged. Actually, he decided to leave in that career mode, but again, we do have Paco on the list. And then we have Paulo Dybala, who should be a good replacement, very pacey guy. Seems to be playing good for Juventus. Hopefully he does break out into our team if we do decide to bring him in. And then third, we do have Brio Donald Embolo. He seems to be the big option for me to bring in. I like players with a type of ability like Benteke, like a Drogba, like Lukaku. So, I do like those pacey, strong forwards that could push the defenders out the way and make it into the box. You got to admire that in Embolo. He seems to be the big option. And then finally do have Luciano Vieto. He just came from Villarreal to Atletico Madrid, so he might not be an option. Embolo may be the main one to come in. If I cannot basically get Embolo, I will have to bring in Paco. And again, guys, I won't be doing any transfers for this part of the season until January 1st when the transfer window opens again, because I have opted not to have the first transfer window open in the beginning of the career, just to keep it more realistic, keep it more entertaining. And again, I will try to match everything to the real world as much as I can. If anybody is injured or banned, they will not be playing for me in this career mode, at least for the first half or at least for the first season.
It feels like we could never stop.